can say as much and as many beautiful things as he knows how, but the world doesn't listen. Because my father is a machinist. He works with machines. He has rough hands. When he shakes hands with people, he is always self-conscious. We live in a world, right, where in the night, motorcycles still follow my father home because he's a mall man driving from work. He doesn't work far away from here, but that is still the world we live in. And I want to make sure that all of you understands that there is no way to build the world we want to live in, but to go ahead into it and try to make the change that we want to see. Does that make sense? So every day I get up and I go into the world, and look, outside of Minnesota, Wisconsin, and California, nobody knows who the mom are. They meet me and they're there because of Gran Torino. They meet me and they come because they think I've written a work of fiction, because I said that Laos is the most heavily bombed nation in the world. And then many of us in America, our parents come from the most heavily bombed province in Laos. That for every one of us, 2 others died so we could be here. How many of you knew that? No, now you know. You have to live a life that's big enough for 2 other people. Does that make sense? It doesn't. Say more so we can talk about this. What doesn't make sense? I'll go back and explain a little bit so you get it, right? Because everybody has recycled names because too many people died along the way, because there were so many goodbyes that never happened. I know a lot of folk, lots of the same names. But my generation, we're the first generation. We call them cool things like Christella, Priscilla, beautiful names that are new. Because my generation is the last generation to get a chance to say goodbye to those who died. Opportunity, right? How many of you know this? They never had this opportunity, but we have it now. And I'm here before you because I think it's really important for you to hear my words. But I want you to hear my words because there are 2 very real reasons. When you go to the Minneapolis public schools, chances are you'll get to read my book. It's being taught all over, and it's also being taught in St. Paul. When you go to college, it's very likely that you're going to meet it. The book is being taught at Stanford, California, Columbia, New York City. Harvard is teaching it too, right? And many, many colleges in between. It's in many, many classrooms. It's a common reading for many universities. So you're going to meet the book again. And many, many of the times, it will be one of the first times that you see the stories that you recognize, the people that you come from, in a bigger history lesson, right? Right up against all of the other books that you read about from Asian American literature, from American literature. I'm also a Minnesota author, and I'm an American writer, and I'm telling the American story in many, many ways. In like 100 more years, right? There will be new people coming in, living in our stories or very similar stories. And it's very important that I speak up and I say our story belongs too. Because there are many, many places where and people forget that we have stories to offer. People forget that knowledge, this thing that we all study from, is nothing more than the lessons we learn in the living of our lives. Well, your teachers here know it. This is why it's a charter school dedicated as much to your education as the culture that gives birth to you. Okay? But that's all I'm going to say now. Now, I'm going to let you ask me the questions that you want to know. Does that make sense? Because you know that I'm a writer. You know I'm 29. You know that I'm single. You know I travel all over the country and even different parts of the world, right? Doing work that I believe in. Right? You guys are talking, I can hear you, right? And I'm not afraid to wake you up if you fall asleep on me. I've woken up many, many people because one human heart cannot be afraid of waking up the next. Does that make sense? Yeah? And I'm willing to fight for the learning that you guys are going to do. So please, ask me what you want to know. You can only find out if there are things you want to know. Who's going to be the brave first? Yes? Do I know Cha Bing? Cha Bing who? There are a lot of Cha Bings. The one who got killed? I did a movie about him. Yeah, it makes me very sad. Hay để bé tôi cho họ trong tiểu sư chỉ cho bé tôi mình gặp bé rồi là bắt chúng tôi cho họ trong nó bây giờ cô tôi share hàng rồi họ có lấy lúc share món này bây giờ vì cho họ ổn định của nó món nào before I learned how to eat with my first spoon, you know my first spoon was a small woman's hands. Before I had a pillow, I slept on a Hmong woman's arms. Before I had a car seat or rode a bike, I saw the world from a Hmong man's shoulders. The Hmong part of me cries for tragedies like Chaveng. Thank you. Anybody else? I saw a hand over here. Yes? Go ahead and look. Mike, cô bắt đầu một thế tệ trong ốp hạ của một thế tệ mà thầu của đáp án mùa thầu từ chỉ là mình cần được một cụ thể ta của một thế tệ mà I went back in 2000 các bạn nói chuyện của nó là you look Japanese, you look Korean, you look Chinese có hai từ của yêu Hmong mà từ cái chữ khu Hmong nhân từ cái trong này and it made me really really sad because Hmong sometimes is the person we carry inside. Sometimes when we look at a mirror we're the only Hmong person we know because we look like we belong to so much of Southeast Asia, right? Hay đi nó. Oh, nhớ thế của trường chỉ tao bài. Cũng mua Switzerland. Next year I'm gonna go to France, Germany, and Australia. But của chỉ tao một thế. Học của Russia của trường xã mobile. I have to wait till they invite me, right? Hey, cũng mua học của trường của bố con mà. He's my nephew. Maxwell's at home. Nhớ của chị nào tuần tới bữa nó chỉ tao cần tới kia mà đâu. My baby brother is 6 years old. Born in America, it's all he knows. Nếu mà cho tụi you mình cần đấy. Right? A lot of you, yeah, like my younger brothers and sisters. Yes? What do you want to do? Angel? What do you want to know? What inspired me to start writing a book? That is a really good question, Angel. My grandma was dying. And I missed her a lot. And I had to, I don't know, I started writing because I wanted to remember her. It was a long love letter because she was scared that she'd be forgotten. She signed a shaky X and that stood for her whole name. She don't press on the page because when I write on a page I know that I'm writing on the keyboards of time. And so I started writing because I wanted the world to remember my grandma with me. That was all it was. It was a long love letter. Because she lived a long time and there was a lot to love. Yes? What's your name? Magic? What made me become a writer? I became a writer so that all of you in this room, so that one day you can go to the bookshelves and say, that book comes from somebody Hmong too, comes from the community I come from. That's really important to me. I became a writer because I asked for books about the Hmong, books about Vietnamese, Chinese, Koreans, Japanese. That's why I'm a writer. So all of you can read about stories about homes that you come from. Because when I say, how many of you still get your ears cut by the moon because you point to it? Me too. And that's important. So much of the world doesn't know and we don't know how to explain. Because that the moon would come down and slice our ears. But it happens to me and this is important for the world to know. Because we're not lying when we say the moon cuts our ears. Yeah, that's easy. Is that all I write about? No, I write about lots of other things. How many of you want to hear me read from the book? Okay, I'll read a little bit from the book, but you have to listen very well. This is already my second presentation of the day, and it's a slow day for me, okay? I'll read. Okay. How many of you believe in ghost stories? How many of you want to hear a ghost story? Okay. Okay, be very quiet and I'll read it, okay? Be very quiet and I'll read you the ghost story that I wrote about here. Okay? It's very important. So this ghost story happened in America. It's non-fiction, so it's real. Okay. So be quiet and I'll read it to you. Okay. Okay, are you ready? Yes. So this house is close to Como Park, where it's been with July 4th, right? Yeah, so it's close to Como Park. So listen to this, okay? The first time I saw the little boy, I was rushing to my parents' room to get a diaper for Tzu. They were both still working second shift so that they could take care of the children when we were at school. It was late and the lights in the bedroom weren't on. I saw a blur, a small figure. in a striped shirt running after me.